What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa. I am a Sierra Leonean American now living in West Africa. I'm in Sierra Leone right now. And if you want to know about what's been going on the continent of Africa, the latest news stories from malaria vaccines to the African Union kicking out the Israeli delegates, then this is the video for you. All right. We are live. We're live on all platforms. We're live on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and TikTok. If you guys can hear me, give me a thumbs up and let me know where you're watching from. I want to see where you're watching from, and give me a thumbs up so I know you can hear me. So let's get city and country. If you can tell me what city and what country you're watching from, and give me a thumbs up so I know you can hear me. I have been running around all day. Just got back to the location that I'm staying in right now. So it's been a bit hectic, but we're still going to go live today because we go live every Monday, no matter what is going on and no matter where I am. And if it's not Monday, then I'll go live on another day. But yeah, so for those of you who are just joining, we're going to talk about the news around the continent of Africa. There's a lot to talk about. It looks like a bunch of you guys can hear me. Tracy Green, Paps for Life, Phonic Print, Laid T. I like that. Laid T. I like that name. Genton Piss or Getting Piss. Okay. St. Louis, Missouri. Shout out to you. We got Reese 2019. Blessings from LA. You got Dag, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. I was just there like 2 months ago. Nye for the Win said you can hear me. Abnur 02 said you can hear me. Cool. Muvhimi, South Africa. Tracy Green's watching from Jamaica. Luckily, I know what flags are from what country. Because you do. What city and country are you guys watching from? Serena's watching from Maryland, United States. CMB Temp 1234 is watching from Miami. We got Dar is watching from North Carolina. Nye for the Win said U.S. Philly. I think we already said that. A lady, I guess, is watching from Miami, Florida, USA. We got EJ Mustard watching from Vancouver Island, Canada. Nice. Ian Borjo is watching from Georgia. We got Mill Ticket. I like Mill Tickets, 1991, watching from Arkansas. Nice. Laid T is watching from Jersey. We got Peculiar. Ariana is watching from Belleville, Illinois. Okay, Sony is watching from South Bend, Indiana. We got people from all over the place. Abnur is watching from Nigeria. We got Aaron watching from Kenya. Dag says, I love the work you're doing. We need more people like you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. We have Skulls joining. We got Raina, said you can hear me. Okay, so you guys can hear me. Where you guys watching from? We got OG SP05 from Philadelphia. Tamiki is from Auckland. What's Auckland? What country is that? Is that Germany? I see. Okay, New Zealand. Sorry, Auckland, New Zealand. Sorry, American education. So sometimes we're going to get geography wrong. Okay, Maktar is from Senegal, but watching from Switzerland, it looks like. Okay, Reese said Los Angeles. Cool. We got Florida in the house. Cole is from Florida. Lisa is watching from Phoenix. Zima is watching. Zima is watching from the USA. What's up? All right. What's this? Free Sport Management, it looks like, or FR Sports Management. Sorry. You're doing awesome work. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I'm glad you find it helpful. Muvhimi says they're watching from Wakanda. Wakanda forever. All right, cool. So, what do we got? What about Facebook, Instagram? Okay, so Lenora's here. Lenora usually is watching from Brooklyn. Giant Kai Kai is in the building, watching from Bo, Sierra Leone. We got Anne Marie Harding is watching from London. All right, cool. So the YouTube crowd has joined in the conversation. What about on TikTok? TikTok folks, where are you guys watching from? I want to know. A bunch of you guys are joining. Where are you guys watching from? All right, so today we're going over the news. This week's news in Africa. There's a lot to talk about. Today has been, well, let me first do some introductions for those of you who aren't as familiar with who I am, especially those of you who are new on TikTok and Instagram. My name is Joe Hatagwa. I am a Sierra Leonean American, spent majority of my life in the United States, about 37 years or so in the United States. Yes, I said 37 years. I've been on the continent now, 36 years in the States. I've been on the continent now, going on my 4th year. I lived in Ghana for 2 years, and then I moved to New York. I moved to Sierra Leone in April. So Lenora's watching from DC. Shout out to Lenora. So I moved to Sierra Leone in April of last year. And so I've been here full time since April of last year. The content that I create is really, the idea is to try to bridge the gap between Africans and the diaspora, right? To continue the conversation of bringing us together, because the more we're together, the more we all win, right? We all have similar challenges in the different places that we're in. We also have different challenges. And I think, they always say 2 heads are better than one. And I think 2 major cultures or multiple major cultures coming together, I think can solve a lot of the problems that we have and help get us back at our rightful place on the world stage. As you guys know, much of the Western world or the global North has benefited greatly from the continent of Africa, whether that's human resources or natural resources. And now it's time for us to benefit as well. And that's the goal of this platform. So whether you're on Instagram and you see me posting news stories about what's happening on the continent of Africa, or you see me posting news stories about what's happening in the States or in the West, or if you're following me on YouTube and you're seeing my interviews with founders and with investors and people who own businesses here on the continent of Africa, or people who've moved here. So my goal is just to tell these stories and to help us bridge the gap so we understand more about what each other is doing and more about each other overall so that we can all advance. So that's a little bit about me. Today, this weekend I'm in Bo, which is what we call the second city in Sierra Leone. It's outside the capital city, depending on who's driving, 3 to maybe 4 hours away from the capital city. And I've been here since end of last week, and I'll be here for a couple more days. And so I'm here with family. It's been good to spend some time with folks that I haven't seen in a while, or folks that I don't see often, and learned a lot about my family heritage and history and lineage, and just a lot. It's been a lot of information. And at some point, I look forward to sharing it all with you guys. There's a lot to absorb, a lot to write down, a lot to, I would say, interpret and make available for the public. But there's a lot that I'd love to share with you guys, and maybe it'll help you all in your journey for figuring out who you are, where you come from, and just understanding how to best take what you know about who you are and apply that to where you're going. Because they always say you don't know where you're going unless you know where you came from, right? And so for me, I think a lot of where I came from, that knowledge has been given to me over the last 6 years. And it's really helped me a lot to figure out where my path is for what I want to do moving forward, right? This whole platform, Authentic African, would not have happened had it not been for me coming to Sierra Leone often and having these kinds of conversations. And so I think it's necessary. All right, on that note, there is a lot to review today. There's a lot of news, but shout out to Shirley from California. I just see you just joined. Wine Light is watching from Austin, Texas, USA. Nice. Okay. So let's get into some of the news. Now, I'm not going to go over all the thousands of news stories happening on the continent of Africa, but I want to talk about some of them. And then I do want to get your thoughts. And I'll give you my thoughts as well. I mean, that's a big part of what we do here is it's an engaging discussion. You know, I want to hear from you guys about what you guys think. This all kind of furthers our growth, right? The more we talk about the different things that are happening around the world and specifically on the continent of Africa, and the more we are knowledgeable about what's happening, the better we are coming up with ideas and working through some of the challenges and learning from each other. So with that, McPhail 08008 says, "Peace, my brother from Louisiana." Shout out to Louisiana. Haven't been yet, but it's on my list of places to go. Cleveland clinics. I'm not aware what a Cleveland clinic is. Can you give me a little bit of a background on that? Maybe I just don't know that terminology. But Lana Champion 07 is asking, or 007 is asking me that. She's a real question for me. Whitelist said, "Your walk through faith is greatly appreciated and respected." Thank you. Okay, cool. So let's get into some of the news stories. There's a lot to cover, and we're going to go through them now. We are already at 9:23, so we're not going to take too much time. But this is something I thought was interesting, and I wanted to share with you guys. So right now, I'm actually looking at africanews.com, and I'm going to go through some of the stories from africanews.com because they do a good job of doing like a really deep dive into the things that are happening on the continent. So with that, let's go ahead and share my screen. We're going to this window here. You know what, guys? And let me know if you guys can see my screen. Give me a thumbs up if you guys can see my screen. We got somebody joining from Twitch. Shout out to Play for Keep. If you guys knew what was in my head right now, it's a conversation for another time. But it's been an interesting day. It's been an interesting day. That's all I can say. I will say that man. I'll just say. Let me just say this. Marriage is a sacred covenant, and if you decide to do it, just make sure you're ready. Okay. That is what I'm going to say on that topic. Moving on. I just had to get it out of my head. It's in my head. I had to get it out. All right. So we're gonna get through the news stories today really quickly. We're gonna go through a few. Now, I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts on this because first, let me give you some context. We have an interesting, eclectic group of folks, especially on Instagram. Anytime there's a discussion of the jabs, as they say, depending on what they're for, there are a lot of conversations about this. You know, obviously the yellow fever one is required to travel to most countries on the continent of Africa. For about a 2-year span, the global sickness one, the 19 one, that one was required to travel. And I remember talking to folks on live and people saying that they weren't willing to take it. So just for that context, in terms of this, the audience, and I think they're across the spectrum in terms of people's belief systems in regards to this. But one of the interesting things that I like to mention here is malaria is prevalent, especially across West Africa. I will tell you that I know people, most of the people who I know that were born and raised in West Africa do not go to the doctor because it's out-of-pocket expenses. There aren't really many companies that offer insurance. And so if you have to come out of pocket, most people prefer to go to the pharmacist. The pharmacist sometimes is a practicing medical doctor. Many times they are a pharmacist, but a lot of times they diagnose the general population that comes in. One, the line is a whole lot shorter, right? The intake process is a whole lot easier. You step up to the counter, you tell them your symptoms, they come to you with a medication. When you go to a hospital, a lot of times you have to fill out documentation. There's a lot of crying people, there are sick people, there's a lot going on. And so not a lot of people like the idea of going to a hospital. So many people go to the pharmacist. Now, because of that, or as a part of that, it's hard to say if it's causation or correlation. many people are often diagnosed with malaria. In fact, I have a caretaker who, since I've known him, has had malaria, according to him, or typhoid fever at least 11 to 15 times. And that's not an exaggeration. I mean, it's like once a quarter. This guy has told me he has malaria. I have friends who are from the States who moved here. They tell me they have malaria. And then I have other friends who I've known here on the continent who've mentioned that they've had malaria multiple times. Knock on wood, I have not had malaria as of yet. And one of the things that I was always wondering is, do they have malaria, or do they exhibit symptoms of malaria and they've just been diagnosed with that because they've been diagnosed with someone who is not properly trained to give them a proper diagnosis? So when I think of this vax, I think of two things. One, does it potentially eliminate many of the potential malaria cases? Or two, if you have been vaxxed and it actually does work, does it then mean that if you exhibit these symptoms that they actually take a further look and you are potentially then looked at for something else it could potentially be, instead of it all being under the umbrella of malaria? Because malaria seems to be something that just gets thrown out there all the time. Like, I don't know how many times I've talked to people like, I have malaria, I have malaria. Now, one other piece of insight I should give on malaria is it's parasites living in your body, number one. And they do mention that if you do not completely kill them with all the antibiotics or whatever the drugs are that they give you, they can lie dormant and they do come back. So there is the potential that many people do have reoccurring malaria because it was never fully taken care of. I think a lot of people stop taking the required medication as soon as they stop feeling the symptoms, instead of ensuring that they've completed the regimen that has been prescribed to them by the medical professional. All right, with all that context, I think it's important to give that context because many people have issues with vaxes and jabs. So I just thought I'd give that context so we can at least start with that information before we get into the this particular article. So so this article is based on Cameroon's starting the world's first malaria vax program for children. So, so Cameroon will be the first country to routinely give children a new malaria vax as shots are rolled out in Africa. Sierra Leone is also looking at this as well. So the campaign is due to start on Monday. So this was updated 10 hours ago. So it looks like it was due to start today. And it was described by officials as a milestone in a decades-long effort to curb the mosquito spread disease on the continent, which accounts for 95% of the world's malaria deaths. Meaning 95% of the people who experience loss of life from malaria is people who contracted on the continent of Africa. In most other cases, people tend to survive, right? The other 5% of the potential loss of life happens outside the continent. So it disproportionately impacts the folks on the continent with potential loss of life. So so this particular doctor, Dr. Ariel, I think you say this when, right? You say when, right? If their name is spelled this way. Chief Program Officer of Gavi Vax's Alliance, which is helping Cameroon secure the shots. They said this vax will save lives. It will provide major relief to families and the country's health system. So the Central African nation hopes to do this for about 250,000 children this year and next year. The organization said it is working with 20 other African countries to help them get the vaccine, and that those countries will hopefully immunize more than 6 million children through 2025. So in Africa, there are about 250 million cases of the parasitic disease each year, including 600,000 people who experience loss of life, mostly in young children. So Cameroon will use the first of two recently approved vaxes known as Muscarix. The World Health Organization endorsed it 2 years ago, acknowledging that even though it is imperfect, its use will still dramatically reduce severe infections and hospitalizations. So here's what's interesting. I think much like the Global Sickness 19 version, I don't think it fully eliminates it from your system. It sounds like it actually reduces the impact of it on people who get it. So what it says here is the GlaxoSmithKline produced shot is only about 30% effective, requires 4 doses, and protection begins to fade after several months. It was tested in Africa and used in a pilot program in 3 countries. So that doesn't sound too promising, to be honest with you, if you're just reading what I just read. GSK has also said it can only produce about 15 million doses of it a year, and some experts believe the second vax developed by Oxford University and approved by WHO in October might be the more practical solution. That one is cheaper. It requires 3 doses, and India Serum Institute said it can make up to 200 million doses a year. So the organization Gavi's Wen said they hope there might be enough of the Oxford vax available to begin immunizing people later this year. Neither of the malaria vaccines stop transmission, so other tools like bed nets and insecticidal spraying will be critical. And the malaria parasite mostly spreads to people via infected mosquitoes and can cause symptoms inducing fever, headaches, and chills. So with all of the information that you just got, what are your thoughts on this? I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know on Instagram. Let me know on YouTube. Let me head over to IG and see what you guys are saying. I haven't been able to take a look yet. So is it Aya? Oh wait, is this Aya that I met in? Is this Aya who I met in Freetown at Stafford Lodge? I think this is Aya. Aya, is this the Aya that I met at Stafford Lodge? If it is, what's up, Aya? How are you? If not, what's up anyway? Okay, Aya, and it's Aya, not Aya, right? Because you said it's people say Aya, but it's actually Aya, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm trying to go off memory here. So Aya says, first of all, she doesn't trust it, and so quinine or quinine in lots of citrus fruit is how I treated myself and my daughter when we had malaria. And she said I did pronounce her name right, so I'm giving myself a pat on the back for that one. Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, look, I'm a person who believes a lot in like homeopathic and natural remedies. That's my preferred solution to many of these things. But and some people, yeah. So there's a lot of different belief systems on how this just supposed to work. And let me be clear. Sorry, Truth Serum 101. That's my mistake. I should have said the AU, not the UN. So I'll have to correct that title. It was the AU, not the UN, that kicked out the Israeli overseers during the AU, African Union, not the United Nations. That is grossly misrepresented. So that's my fault. I wrote that title a little over an hour ago on the road from one city to another, half connected to the internet. So my apologies. I'm glad you pointed it out, because I do need to make that adjustment and that change, because that is incorrect. So let me make that change. Can I change it? It's not allowing me to make the change because we're already live. So I have to go in and make the change afterwards. All right, cool. All right, so let's see what people are saying on Instagram. Let me head over to Instagram. So that's the YouTube side. All right, let me scroll up a little bit, because I know on Instagram it just goes nuts. Okay. So Washlaw says, Assalamu alaikum. I said, Walaikum salam, right? Isn't that what I'm saying? Walaikum salam. Where are you? I am in Sierra Leone. Gladys is asking who is helping the Black Jews in Africa. Great question. I am not sure if there's any one particular group focused on that. Okay, Wine Light said you could see my screen when I was asking that before. Lana was asking about the Cleveland Clinic. She said it's a major hospital. Cleveland Clinics, they're all about science, and they have taken over every hospital in Cleveland, Ohio, which is where I'm from. Okay, I haven't seen any Cleveland Clinics. Doesn't mean that there aren't any, but I haven't encountered any directly. Camilla is just saying, praise God, declare that you will not get it in terms of my experience not having gotten malaria. I think it's Ian Bohr. Joe said my husband had malaria from Nigeria. What is everybody saying? Rasja Heru says they're not into vaxes. They said they are poison, every single one. Okay, that is your opinion. Okay, here's an interesting one. This one comes up a lot in my conversations with folks. There are a lot of people who have a lot of issues with Bill Gates. And Camilla is specifically saying if Bill Gates is involved, no one should take these shots. Okay. I've seen a lot of people have these conversations about Bill Gates and talking about wealth generation through administration of vaxes. I haven't seen a direct correlation to his increase in wealth. I think a large majority of his wealth comes from Xbox sales, to be honest. And now, obviously Microsoft Word, Sheets, etc., because he's a pretty large shareholder still in Microsoft. And so most of his wealth comes from there, and the fluctuation in his wealth generally is based on that. But you never know. Maybe he does make a substantial amount of money from vaxes, and people have all kinds of thoughts about it because I know that he's been big on population control. So yeah, that's something that comes up. So Camilla says 4 doses. Nope, she's not into it. So she also says this has been prophesized. They're going to use big pharma to, let's say, reduce the population. I'm going to have to edit what you said a little bit. I can't say that word on live. Chelsea says, I hoped in the end there, I hopped on in at the end there, but that's a lot of shots and therefore a lot of money. Sounds like a big pharma scam. Understand why you might think so. All right, let's see. What else are people saying? Camilla says she's with Chelsea. 4 doses for one individual is a lot. These folks are going to make money. Shout out to Kika Moonlight. She said, good evening, Kika. From Delta State, Nigeria. So Wine Light 2163 says, dietary is the proper avenue to avoid all illness. Not understanding why soursop isn't grown and produced in a larger scale throughout the continent in its, I guess, entirety. I think it got cut off a bit. Kika Moonlight says malaria is from mosquitoes. You just take malaria medicine. Yeah, that's what some people do. I had taken malaria pills when I first used to come to the continent of Africa, but obviously once I moved, it was just far too expensive to be buying it. So I just, just eliminated that and stopped taking them and just went as usual. Wash Law 219 says, what's the economic situation there? I want to move from here, the Matrix / United States. We can get to that in a second. But I would say it depends on what you want to do. That's a whole nother conversation. I can't answer that question in just one brief statement, but I will tell you that moving to the continent of Africa is a major, major decision if you're coming from the Western world. And there are a lot of things that you need to consider. If you have any questions about that, I have 2 lives that I did. I did one that said, don't move to Africa. And I have another one that said why you should move to Africa. So if you want to know all the different reasons why you shouldn't and all the different reasons why you should, there are 2 different live videos that I've done on my platform where I've gone in depth. And so if that answers any potential questions you might have, great. If not, then you can definitely hit me up for a consulting session. I'd be more than happy to give you some thoughts and ideas based on your own specific circumstances and what's going on with you. Okay, Capstick Dale says, I agree with what the lady said. Don't trust Bill Gates. Wow, that's a common sentiment I hear a lot. Camilla said, we do not care about Bill Gates and his wealth. The vaccines have nothing to do with his wealth, but that it is part of the agenda to depopulate the world's population, experimenting on our population. There you go. So yeah, there was always two sides to it, right? Some people said it was finances. Other people say it's to decrease the world's population. Some people say it's both, right? He has mentioned that the world is overpopulated on a number of occasions, and so I think that's why it gives credence to the belief system that people think that he wants to do that. I don't pretend to know anything one way or another. I'm open to all ideas and thought processes around these kinds of things. I think for me, I'm always looking for evidence to prove for or prove against, and I haven't seen enough for or against. So right now, I'm just like, it's possible. Either way, either thing is possible. What else do we have? What are other people saying? All right, so I guess it's all the comments for now. So Aya says, we've seen thousands of young African women sterilized from taking these things in the West. When will we learn to stop trusting them? There you go. That is what Aya is saying. All right, cool. So is that everything? Has everyone gotten a chance to talk about what their thoughts are on this particular topic? I wanted to open with this one because I felt like there'd be a lot more engagement and communication around this one. The last couple of lives have been pretty quiet. So it's good to see that you guys have some thoughts here. It's interesting. For me, it's tough, right? Because obviously, to go to school in America, I had to have a number of different vaccines, jabs, let's say. The MMR, hepatitis. I actually was just looking at my first yellow card. I shipped some stuff here, and I found all this old documentation from when I was a kid. So from 1984 to 1985, I had about 20 different shots. 20, 23, something like that. For most of us, that has been the case. And so I know a lot of people have a lot of concerns about these things. And so in some cases, people are like, well, back then, they were less detrimental to your health. Today, these newer ones, or there are different ones. And so these are conversations that I hear happening all the time. And again, I'm one of those people that I'd like to see arguments for both, and then I make up my own thought process and decision either way. But I do know that I have many coursing through my veins from early childhood. Who knows what the long-term impact of these have been or are going to be. But yeah, 1984 and 1985. And yes, I was born in 1984. If you're doing the math, that means I will be 40 this year. I have many of them. It was surprising to see the number, because I had a conversation with somebody recently that felt like they're asking children to take more of them, but I took quite a few. There was a lot. There was a lot that I had back then. And so I don't know for any of you guys if that's what it was like, but yeah. And so, but I also know a number of medical professionals, and of course, all of them are pro. Generally, the ones that I know are pro jabs. And then, of course, I have many people who are into holistic medicine, people who are very big on self-healing, and they're obviously against jabs. So it's always interesting to hear arguments from either side. Some folks who have deep scientific information and on either side, and then folks who don't on either side. Just because you're a medical professional doesn't mean you understand infectious illnesses either, right? You can be a dermatologist and not have the deepest of understanding of infectious illnesses. So I think it's important to understand that the best people to consult on these kinds of things are the people who've done multitudes of or multiple years of research on these kinds of things. And I think that gives you the best indication of an informed opinion. Yeah. All right, cool. So that is that topic. It looks like We've exhausted through all of the conversations, comments, and thoughts. Let's see. Let me see if there's anything. So Kika Moonlight is going to Ghana soon. I did get your mail. I will get back to you, Kika. I've been out of the capital city, but I will get back to you. It's been pretty crazy. Yes, I am 13 years older than you are. I will be 40 in 4 months. And I am taking birthday gifts if anybody so chooses. All right, cool. All right, let's move on to the next story because we've now exhausted this topic. Everybody I think got a chance to say what they had to say. Let's get to do we want to talk about AFCON? No, we do not. Let's get out of the AFCON. We don't need to talk about football. I think there are more interesting stories that we could review. Okay, so this is interesting. So Afrobeats has now obviously taken center stage in terms of the global music landscape, right? And there are all kinds of debates. I hear folks from the Caribbean saying Afrobeats has stolen from reggae or calypso. And then I've also heard people reminding those folks that reggae and calypso has its roots in African music. So we kind of all get everything from African music to begin with, right? But it's interesting to hear, to see how far it's come. You know, as you guys might have heard in the 2023 Grammys, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was the first time that Afrobeats was added as a category. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Rema won with his song. I think one of the awards he won with Selena Gomez, that song, if I'm not mistaken. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. But now, center stage, performing at the Grammys for the first time, is going to be an Afrobeats artist, I think, for the first time. And if not, maybe correct me if I'm wrong on that too. I don't know if Rema performed at the Grammys, but I know this year, Burna Boy is going to perform at the Grammys, and he has been breaking all kinds of records in terms of stadium performances all around the world. He is the it guy when it comes to Afrobeats. He's on fire, literally. Well, I guess figuratively, but the picture here shows, that's why I'm saying literally. But this guy is everywhere. So he'll perform at the 2024 Grammys on Sunday, February 4th at Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles. That used to be called the Staples Center. It's very weird that they call it Crypto.com Arena now. But anyway, they announced it on Monday the 22nd, so that's today, that the City Boy crooner, the City Boy song I like a lot actually, Burna Boy will share the Grammy stage with notable artists such as Luke Combs and Travis Scott. The Recording Academy shared the exciting news via their Twitter page. As you can see, interesting imagery there. Burna Boy received 3 nominations at the 66 Grammys. His nominations include Best Melodic Rap Performance for Sitting on Top of the World. That was with, he did that song with 21 Savage, if I'm not mistaken. Was it 21 Savage? Yeah, and I think they sampled Brandy Sitting on Top of the World. Then Best Global Music Performance for Alone, and then Best African Music Performance for City Boys. All right. So what are you guys' thoughts on that? Is there another Afrobeats artist you guys would have wanted to see? Or do you think Burna Boy, he's earned it and it's his time now? I'd love to hear from you guys. Oh, and I did mention my birthday a little earlier while you guys work to let me know that, what you guys think about the Grammys. I is asking when my birthday is. My birthday is May 1st, May Day. I am a Taurus. So I'll be the big 4-0 this year. And I'm looking to celebrate in a number of different cities. Stay tuned for that. We may do another global birthday. For context, my 35th birthday, I did my 35th birthday, I did LA, New York, Freetown, Sierra Leone. So there may be some version of something like that. But we may do a couple of different things, My Accra people, you know, my Salon people, my Freetown people, my US people. We got to figure out how we can all celebrate together. So I'm working through figuring this out because this is a big one. Okay. So Ayaz is on the 31st. So A is a Gemini. I can see that. I can see that, Aya. Based on based on our conversations at Stafford Lodge, I can see you being a Gemini. I see that. Mari Shai says, hello, everyone. What's up, Mari? Or is it Marie? Sorry, I always do that. Maybe it's Marie. Okay. Any other thoughts on Burna Boy, though? You guys have any thoughts on Burna Boy performing? Okay, so Jay Dedza actually is back with the earlier discussion on the jab. It said, I agree with a few: TB, polio, measles, chickenpox, tetanus. The rest, I feel, stuff like the flu, etc., are non-essential. Okay, that's another viewpoint there as well. Lana Champion says, you're so young. Oh, okay. So Kika Moonlight says, if I'm a Ghana during my birthday, you'd bake a cake for me. I appreciate that. Kika Moonlight, as a Nigerian, is saying reggae birthed Afrobeat, the original Afrobeat, and mentions Kiz Daniel. So in terms of the performance, Real Moses, Ike Chukwu, says happy for him, happy for Burna Boy. Let's see, what else do we got? Anybody else? Any other thoughts on Burna Boy performing? It looks like that's it. All right, cool. And I knows exactly what I'm talking about her Gemini showing through. And we'll leave that conversation for if I ever go live with Aya, we could talk about it then. All right, cool. So let's get to some of the other stories, right? What else is there? So we just talked about Burna Boy. Let's move on. Okay, so this is another one. So the Secretary of State, the current Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, is coming to the continent of Africa. If you remember, Kamala Harris came to a couple of countries. I was there. Was it last year or the year before? I can't even remember. Was it 2022 or 2023 when Kamala went to Ghana? She went to Ghana. I think she went to Tanzania. And she went to one more country, which is escaping me right now. But when she was in Ghana, I went to see her speak. I posted that on the platform, and I also went live and talked about it. Talked about what she talked about the competition, the race for Africa, the new race for Africa amongst all the other continents. And so the United States is under this current administration has taken a special interest in expanding relations with the continent of Africa. And a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on why. And we're not here to talk about why specifically in this conversation, but we'll talk about where he's going and what they say the reason for coming to the continent is. So Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is planning to visit 4 African countries as the Biden administration tries to keep its eyes on all corners of the world while being consumed by crises in Ukraine, the Middle East, and the Red Sea. The State Department announced on Thursday that Blinken will go to Cape Verde, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, and Angola starting Sunday for talks focused on regional security, conflict prevention, democracy promotion, and trade. Nigeria is West Africa's regional heavyweight, or the continent's heavyweight, to be honest, and plays a major role in security issues, especially those involving Islamic extremists, violence in the Sahel region, the vast arid expanse south of the Sahara Desert. So which includes Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are part of the Sahel region. And of course, all experience coups and who also all have extremists in their countries. And Nigeria does as well, as you guys might remember, Bring Back Our Girls, Boko Haram, right? That is in Nigeria as well. So it is a challenge. And it's something that the the Western world has, in many occasions, discussed assisting with. You know, if you guys might remember, one of the things that the French military said that the reason why they were in Niger when they were getting kicked out was because they said part of that was an effort to help stave off the extremists that are in the country, tied to Al Qaeda and other groups known as terrorist groups. And so it looks like the United States is trying to be involved in conversations around that, according to this article and according to the statements from the United States. The trip will be his third overseas mission in the new year. He returned from a Gaza-focused week-long 10-nation trip in the Middle East last Thursday and a 3-day trip to the World Economic Forum in Switzerland on Wednesday. The trip will be, okay, so Blinken's Africa trip comes as the United States is increasingly nervous about its relationships on the continent, particularly after coups last year in Niger and Gabon and the escalating unrest in Sudan and the DRC. In addition, the United States and China are in a battle for influence throughout Africa. That topic will likely be top of his agenda with Angola, which China has targeted for significant investment. Yes, I think if I remember reading correctly, and I might have posted this on Authentic African, something like 35% of all investments that China has made on the continent of Africa has been made in the country of Angola. So that makes sense in terms of America's strategic interest for them to decide they want to go there. I don't know how much influence they'll have. It sounds like Angola is very tightly woven with China, but the United States, as usual, is looking to try to expand its influence. So I guess we'll have to see how that plays out. So Blinken will highlight the administration's partnership with the African nation on issues such as the climate, economic investment, food and health. A department spokesperson, Matthew Miller, said in a statement. While in the Ivory Coast, Blinken may attend an Africa Cup of Nations soccer match between the host country and Equatorial Guinea, which I think was today, right? Wasn't that today? Correct me. I don't know. I know that if they said he was coming Sunday, today's Monday. So yeah. So that's that. I do want to find. Okay, so here's another interesting topic. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this, but actually, what are your guys' thoughts on Anthony Blinken coming to the continent of Africa, where he's going? I do actually want to hear from you guys on this. I haven't gotten a chance. So AS says expanding relations equals trying to maintain neocolonialism while their matrix is deconstructing. There you go. That's Aya's thought process. Manelik is in the house. Shout out to Manelik. What's up? All right, what are people saying on Instagram? Let's hop over to Instagram and see what the folks are saying. Let's see. Just trying to scroll through here and see if there's anything I might have missed. Okay, no comments from you guys on Blinken's visit to the continent of Africa. I want to hear your thoughts. Well, we've gotten a couple thoughts so far, so we'll leave it at that. All right, I'll come back to Instagram again. If you guys have any other thoughts, I'll come back and we'll get to you. So let's move on to the next topic because we are already at 10 p.m. GMT, and we generally don't go much later than now these days. Okay. So Aya says we need more leaders like, and I never know how to say his name, but the new junta of Burkina Faso. Yeah, he's been interesting. For context, he's 35. Is he not 35 years old? And he's already started to create major trade deals with Russia. They've also announced that they're going to do a nuclear power plant with Russia in Burkina Faso. He's been very, very focused on, not leaning so heavily on the West and really working to do more trade on the continent of Africa. The challenge is the African Union has sanctioned them. And so it's going to be very tough. And this applies to your next topic as well. So on that topic, let's get into it. Um, so um, so this is specific to Sierra Leone, and I put this in here because I am in Sierra Leone right now. So the former Sierra Leone president is seeking medical care in Nigeria amidst trial uncertainties. So if you guys might remember, there was a coup attempt in was it November or October of last year? There's so much news and so many things happening. I think it was November last year. And during the time of the attempted coup, they were working to try to figure out who was at fault. And so there were 36 wanted persons as part of this coup attempt. And amongst that list initially was one of the daughters of the former president. Later, we saw that they decided to question the former president. He cooperated. He said, I will come to Freetown and deal with the questioning under certain conditions. It looks like the current administration met those conditions. He came to meet with them, and then they were moving forward with a trial. And throughout this process, let me just read the article, because I think at this point, let's just read the article, because then you're going to get some details that I don't want to misrepresent. So, Sierra Leone's ex-president, Ernest Bai Koroma, is set to undergo medical treatment in Nigeria despite facing allegations of involvement in a coup attempt last year. The High Court granted him a 3-month leave on Wednesday, raising widespread speculation about a potential exile arrangement. Mr. Bai Koroma, who led Sierra Leone for 11 years until 2018, obtained permission to leave the country as he awaits his treason trial scheduled for March. Current President Julius Maada Bio succeeded him in office. On Friday afternoon, a Nigerian presidential jet carrying the 70-year-old former president was observed departing from Freetown International Airport. Persistent rumors suggest that a deal may have been facilitated by the West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, in collaboration with the Sierra Leone government to allow Mr. Bai Koroma to relocate, potentially easing tensions stemming from the unrest in November. The situation unfolds against the backdrop of uncertainty, which observers questioning the nature of the former president's departure and its implications for the impeding legal proceedings. So ECOWAS is led today, currently, by President Tinubu of Nigeria. And so many of the decisions ECOWAS is making are coming from the leadership of Tinubu. And I do know, as far as I understand, there has been an ongoing relationship between the former president of Sierra Leone, Mr. Ernest Bai Koroma, and also President Tinubu, who's the current president of Nigeria. I do know the former president of Sierra Leone, Ernest Bai Koroma, actually was one of the chairs of a leadership conference. It was in Southern Africa sometime last year, where there were a number of former presidents getting together, and he was the person who was actually heading it up, which I thought was interesting, considering how small Sierra Leone is, and his involvement in such a big event. So I think in terms of he carries some weight across some of the other African nations, and so it's interesting to see that he was invited to Nigeria and flown on a jet from Nigeria, from Sierra Leone to Nigeria. The jet is from Nigeria as well. So I thought that was interesting as well. So I guess we'll have to see how this all plays out. If he ends up coming back for the trial, if he's convicted, what the evidence might look like, all of that we can cover. I'm going to leave it at that. Let me jump into some of the questions, comments, thoughts, and concerns. Okay, so Kika Moonlight is here. Okay, and Kika Moonlight, who is a Nigerian from Delta State, says, She doesn't think that Tinubu can be trusted. AS says the root of the problem is Salon's mimicry of the West's two-party system. Oh, okay, mimicking, I guess, right? The West two-party system. Europeanized political ideologies don't serve Africa. Kika says, ever since, I guess she's talking about Tinubu became president, a lot has happened. Aya says, and of course, not just Salon, African countries need to define themselves on their own terms, not those laid out from the Berlin Conference's breakdown of Africa. That's a good point. I've had this conversation a lot with folks around the idea of a benevolent dictator is necessary for Africa to succeed. And a lot of times, what comes to mind is Rwanda, and what comes up in those discussions is Rwanda, and how Rwanda has completely turned around after a civil war, and is now one of the major destinations on the continent of Africa. So many people from Eastern Africa talk about how much Rwanda has changed, and they've had one person in leadership for over 20 years, 24 years, I think, just about 24 years, if I'm not mistaken. He came into office 24 years ago. Uganda has also gone through quite a significant change. For most people would say for the better. They've also had one person in power for an extended period of time. I think where many people get nervous is when you have someone who is believed to be the right person for the country and maybe does not have the best interest at heart, and now they're never going to leave office. That's, I think, where many people get nervous about the idea of that. Kika says, Africa needs to reunite. That's the only way to stop colonial masters. There you go. That's an interesting viewpoint. That's Kika's viewpoint. Okay. Let's see what people are saying on Instagram. Let me jump over there quickly. Let's see. So Camilla is saying we need the junta from Burkina Faso. We need people who are about it. I don't trust Russia either, but at least he is leading and stating his position. Okay. Camilla says, I'm with Aya. This is not a joke. They're going to start wanting to increase connectivity on the continent to bring in AI and the beast systems. Okay, this is about the U.S. and the U.S.'s involvement on the continent of Africa, and with Anthony Blinken's visit. So that was Camilla's thought process. What is everybody else saying? Okay. Cool. So I'm going to move on to the next story. I've already said this one, Burna Boy performing. We've already gone through that one. We've already gone through Blinken's trip. Yes. I wanted to get to the AU removal of Israel from an AU meeting, and especially the conversation around observer status. Let me see if I can find an article. Okay, Al Jazeera. That was actually 2023. Whoa. Wait, was somebody posting? Was this news story being posted from last year? I just saw a news story today. That's actually my fault. I saw a news story today. I didn't look at the date, and it looks like this is actually from last year, and they thought it was from today because the African Union is, if I'm not mistaken, are meeting, right? Yeah, I don't think this was today. You guys let me know. Have you guys heard a story about this? Is this from last year? Like I'm looking at all these stories and it looks like they're from 2023. We're definitely in 2024. So yeah, I saw a video today that somebody posted, and they posted it as if it was news, like it was today's news. Now it looks like I was using clickbait to try to get you guys on here. Well, if it didn't happen today, forgive me for adding that to the title because that's not what happened. All right, so it's Tio is asking, what's your YouTube channel? Everything is Authentic African. So you just want to look up Authentic African and you will find the YouTube channel. It's the same logo that you see on the Instagram page. That's the YouTube channel. So you can go there, jump on there, subscribe, comment, and share. Okay, so Camilla says, not only should Africa unite, but the diaspora needs to understand they must go back Africa up. If the melanated, I guess, people on both hemispheres unite, the powers that be will be weary of how they move. Yeah, I mean, look, I've said this platform has always been about bringing Africans and Africans living in the diaspora together, right? Whether you're foundational Black American, you were brought over during your ancestry comes from folks that were brought over during the transatlantic slave trade. I do think it's important that we all are working together for the advancement of our people. Oh, Instagram disconnected from the stream because it hit 1 hour. Shout out to Instagram, always disconnecting after 1 hour. Okay. That always happens. All right, guys. Well, in any case, I think we're gonna bring this to an end, but there are a couple more things that came up that I do wanna get to. So, Kika says, I went to the market and the price of stuff were hiked due to the dollar. I don't understand why dollar affects our currency and the economy so bad. So this is basically further into discussions on what happened in Nigeria since the new president. That was further backing up with what Kika had said before. A is saying it's old. So yeah. So what happened with the person from Israel getting kicked out of the African Union Summit? That was last year, not this year. So as I was just Googling it there, you could see that all the stories were from last year. So apologies for that, guys. So Kika says the most annoying is the Delta. They take your crude oil and refine it and resell our products to us. Yes. Okay, cool. Well, guys, it's a little bit past 10:14 here. I think we've been on for a little over an hour and 2 minutes. And so, as always, I want to thank you guys for joining. I really appreciate this. If you know anyone who's interested in any kind of news on the continent, planning to move to the continent, knows anybody who is thinking about moving or visiting, you definitely want to share this platform with them. Check out YouTube. YouTube has more long form content, interviews that I've done with people, more vlogs and things like that. So you see what my life has been like living here. Instagram, of course, is just sharing knowledge. So T.O. is asking, how often do you go live? Actually, technically, I go live once a week, every Monday. So I know Kika was jumping in there and answer, but I go live every week on Monday. Sometimes I go live on other days, but in general, it's just every Monday I go live. I will work to start going live more times per week. It's just a matter of having the time, the energy to do so. Lenora says, thank you and good night. Thank you, Lenora, for your support and always joining and the insight you gave me when we met in person. I met Lenora now. I think Lenora is the only person I've met in more than one country. I met Lenora next to the piano at Radisson Blu in Freetown, Sierra Leone, and then we also met in Ghana as well. Aya says, thanks for the convo, Joe. Catch you next time I'm there. Take care. Thank you. Appreciate your involvement in the discussion. I really appreciate it. Always enlightening insights. Aya and I had some really good conversations and enlightening ones, for sure. But you take care as well. All right, thanks guys for watching. And with that, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share this with anybody you know, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.